Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. That music is Zadok the Priest. It's being wasted because I set it up for Charles C.W. Cooke. Oh, Charles C.W. Cooke gets to hear Zadok the Priest. Charles, when you announced on a previous edition of The Editors that Zadok the Priest was one of your favorite pieces, I confess I'm not a classical music guy. I had to go. When did you develop an appreciation for Zadok the Priest?
Well, actually, I went to school at King's College in Cambridge when I was 6 years old, and they have a famous choir there. And I was exposed to a huge amount of choral music, and that one always stuck with me.
Okay, that's the answer. Charles, I did not hear the new edition of The Editors that dropped this morning. I'll listen to it tomorrow during my trundle. So I don't know if you've covered this already, but I'd like to start with the murder of the two young people in D.C. on Wednesday night. They happened to be Jewish. One was Israeli, one was American. Both worked at the Israeli embassy, but they were killed coming out of the Capitol Jewish Museum. There's no way the killer knew who they were, what they were going to do. What was your reaction to this, and what do you think it portends, if anything?
Well, I hope it doesn't portend copycat murders. My reaction to it is that this is unfortunately one more installation in a centuries-long history of anti-Semitism, and that for it to happen in the capital of the United States, including to an American citizen, is deeply alarming. I am often skeptical of ascribing motives to people who commit atrocities because some of them are crazy and they pick up on the ideology that they're associated with effectively at random or by accident. That is not the case here. This is somebody who was very clearly committed to a hatred of Israel. This was clearly a political act. The perpetrator said as much. And unfortunately, this is one of the oldest problems that the human race faces.
Now, I believe, Charles, that I can hold two thoughts. I just said this to Jim Garrity. I can hold the thought that the Tucson shooting in 2011 of Gabby Giffords and the federal judge and others was wholly unrelated to Sarah Palin's website with the target, as was alleged at the time. And I can also hold that this is clearly influenced by an environment, permission structure is the term, I believe, that has allowed politically violently inclined people to go crazy. And I want to run down the examples. We've got the attempt to kill Kavanaugh, which was very much like this one, only it didn't work. We've got the two shots at Trump. Then we've got the burning down of Shapiro's house, the attacks on Tesla. And of course, the original sin here was the summer of George Floyd, when violence was, if not encouraged, certainly condoned and abetted by acquiescence. I see a pattern. It does remind me of the 60s. Do you think it is?
I certainly think a lot of the examples you just gave are political violence, and that's because the people who committed them said that they were acting in a political manner for political purposes. The Kavanaugh example is a perfect analogy in that he said, I believe, to the police that he wanted to kill Kavanaugh to stop the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Yeah. Now, where I have some squishiness, I suppose, is I don't like it when incidents such as these are used too broadly to condemn or to silence those who have strong political views. That happens on the left, it happens on the right. I'm not a fan of that. But in this case, the closest we've got to the language that he used is the campus protests themselves. I mean, he said apparently free Palestine. We've seen at Columbia and elsewhere calls to globalize the Intifada. These are not political disagreements. These are not robust debate within a free republic. Globalize the Intifada means what he just did. He himself associated himself with the free Palestine movement. So I think in this case and some of the others you mentioned, yeah, it's absolutely fair to link him to ideas that have percolated within the culture.
And I would encourage everyone, we're going to go to a break here, and I'll talk with Charles off air, and then I will bring him back on air afterwards, to go and find the video of Guy Christensen, an 18-year-old extremist, who commented approvingly of these killings. And I think crossed the line, the Brandenburg line, which is pretty hard to cross in America for good reason. I am like Charles, not eager to shut down anyone's speech, but I am disturbed by the Guy Christensen TikTok video. He's obviously ignorant and an 18-year-old who doesn't know what he's talking about, and he doesn't know what genocide is. But it was launched by this, and that will in turn launch other things, and we're in a cycle. I'll be right back with Charles C.W. Cooke. We're going to talk about the courts after this. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt talking with Charles C.W. Cooke. He has his own podcast, Charles C.W. Cooke. He, of course, contributes to the editors at National Review Podcast and writes for National Review. Charles, there was a huge win at the Supreme Court yesterday. It's not complete, but it's huge. Trump v. Wilcox, which stands for the proposition that the executive is in charge of the executive branch. There are no independent agencies, and you can fire without cause everyone who sits on a board. I'm very juiced about this because it kills off Humphrey's executor, the bad interpretation of Humphrey's executor. What do you think about it? It's not final, but it looks very final.
Yeah, it's not final. I'm thrilled about it as well. I think if you read the Constitution is clear in Article 2. It vests all executive power in the president. And it should, because the president is the only member of the executive branch who was elected to take those decisions. If you have a bunch of free-floating agencies that are unmoored from the president's authority, then you've created a fourth branch of government. That decision should never have been taken in the 1930s. Now, there are some wrinkles here. The dissent I did not find persuasive. It was clear and undistilled version of progressive governance of the sort you would expect from Elena Kagan. What I do think is interesting is how this implicates other institutions within the executive branch that the public might be less willing to allow the president to exercise full control over. For example, the Federal Reserve. This wasn't the full decision, as you say, this was on the emergency docket. But the decision says, oh, well, we don't have to worry about the Federal Reserve. It doesn't implicate it at the moment because. And then it draws some distinctions between different sorts of agency that I'm not sure I found persuasive. But that wasn't the decision, as you say. So I guess we'll find out how the court deals with that when it comes to it.
If I were Trump, I would roll out with the FTC and the FCC and some of the alphabet agencies and leave the Federal Reserve alone until it is once and truly settled that it's that. The other thing that I like about this is the vindication of Trump's rollout aggressively on every bad precedent stream that's been polluted over the past 30 years. And he's losing some, and that's fine. I want him to lose birthright citizenship because I think he's wrong. But do you approve of the rollout in every direction at once?
Yeah, but more than that, I approve of American politicians taking actions they believe are consistent with the Constitution and in certain circumstances pushing against bad precedent. And we've seen a lot of judges get involved in Trump's presidency early on, more than usual. We have some Trump law in there, and it is appropriate for the Supreme Court to take these issues on an expedited basis, and it's appropriate for the Trump administration, where it thinks it's correct, genuinely thinks it's correct, non-frivolously, to push hard. So, I mean, I'm very pleased about this because I am one of those rare creatures here in the modern world. I'm somebody who thinks that Congress should exercise Congress's power and the president should exercise the president's power. And a lot of the Supreme Court's workload over the last 10 years or so has been dealing with
There are two of us. There are two of us, Charles. I'll be right back. We'll start a club. Don't go anywhere, America. Stay with us. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. This is my interview with Charles C.W. Cooke to end the week, and it's been a big week of news. A lot of it terrible, some of it good, some of it, I don't know. The I don't know category is one big, beautiful bill. And I have some reservations, but I also know it's got to go to the Senate, and then it's got to go to conference. And I also believe in incrementalism, not if you can't get the whole thing, you don't sit it out like Thomas Massey. Charles, I haven't heard your take yet on the one big, beautiful bill. Take your time. Tell us what you love and what you hate.
All right. Well, I don't really like it, although I think much of it is necessary and some of it is good. What I like about it is that it renews the 2017 tax cuts, that's absolutely imperative. Even if you were opposed to the 2017 tax cuts, which some were for various reasons, you should be in favor of this bill. We cannot have the largest tax cut in American history this year. I like the changes to the Medicaid work requirements. I like the focus on defense spending. What I do not like is the restoration of the state and local tax deduction caps. I think that's a disastrous policy. I don't like many of what I see as frivolous giveaways, no taxes on tips, overtime, raise-in deductions for seniors. And I don't like that there is no serious attempt to cut spending. In particular, I don't like that Congress didn't just zero out the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act. Now, I will say that I do understand as a practical matter that I don't get to write the tax code and that this is a difficult political game to play, given how narrow the Republicans' majorities are, especially in the House, and given how heavily they are relying for the final yes votes from New York. I've been pretty vocal in my opposition to Mike Lawler from New York's attempt to completely explode the SALT caps. I think some compromise there was necessary. Some compromise on Medicaid was necessary. I do think that it has involved too much compromise with the moderates and not enough seizing of the day. But as I say, I didn't get to write this bill.
Let me throw my one seizing of the day idea at you and see what you think. You remember the BRAC Commission, where a group of appointees from both branches went around, they decided which military bases would be closed, and then it was an up or down vote on what they came up with. What about a BRAC Commission on entitlement reform? Not unlike the Greenspan Commission from the early 80s on Social Security, where you get a group of people to come up with serious entitlement reform. For example, the age of retirement is going to go up 1 month a year for the next 20 years because we're going to live longer, right? So we're not going to retire. What do you think about a BRAC-style approach to entitlement reform? Make them bring it in and vote on it by the end of December 2026.
I'm strongly in favor of doing that. Now, I don't think if we did it next year that it would solve our issues or receive a yes vote, but I do think it would be a good process to start because we are going to have to do this eventually. And the further we kick that can down the road, the worse the situation gets. So I'm totally in favor of doing that, even if you know when embarking on the project that it's going to take 10 years before you get anywhere.
You know, I think you could get it done if you made the changes to entitlements the 30-year change that we did with the government employees' pension system, moving from defined benefit to defined contribution. That took 30 years to work out. If you do a 30-year entitlement reform, you can get it. I really think you can get it done. And, I mean, we have to get it done, don't we? Or we're going to crash the economy soon.
Oh, yeah. No, we absolutely have to get it done. It's astonishing to me that we've got this far. I hope you're right. Perhaps you're right. Perhaps if you roll it out over 30 years, there would be enough votes for it. I just don't see a great enthusiasm for it in the Republican Party, and I don't see a great enthusiasm for it in President Trump, who ran against entitlement reform as president this time around, and also who told Congress not to screw around too much with even Medicaid, which in part is the product of Obamacare that the Republicans were once vehemently against. But I hope you're right.
I think you could persuade the president that postponed entitlement slowly rolled out would take its time. Charles C.W. Cooke, have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy Florida before it turns muggy and terrible and full of bugs, as is coming your way, but you like it down there. So thank you for joining me this Friday. Have a great long weekend and celebrating our heroes. Thank you, Charles.